Have you ever sat in a room watching a leader take things in a direction that you know is wrong and you still go along with it anyways? Not because you agreed, but because you didn't know how to say no. I want to talk to you today because I've been every man in that room. The one charging ahead, sure of himself, the one who quietly stepped back, and the one who stayed silent when he knew better. It took me decades and the collapse of something I built to learn what I'm about to share with you. This is the long road of maturity. And here's the thing about a long road. You don't find out how far you've traveled by looking ahead. You find out the day you're standing exactly where the elders once stood, doing exactly what they once did, and finally understanding it from the inside. Let me take you back because a man once walked away from my company while we were winning, and it took me decades to understand why. Years ago, I was leading a company that was growing like crazy. And here's the part that should have made me wiser. This wasn't my first launch. It was my second. I had experience on the books. I was still young in my leadership, growth-driven, a little wild, and honestly, we were having a great time. I hired people I loved being around. We worked hard, we laughed hard, and the number on the big board, it kept going up. As far as I was concerned, the scoreboards, it settled every argument. There was an elder advisor at the table. This guy was serious. He didn't like all the fun and all the excitement. And while we were celebrating the big number, he kept pointing at the small ones, the measurements, the details you overlook when everything is going up. Because when you're growing that fast, the small number looks like noise. And I read his seriousness as smallness. I thought he didn't have the vision for the wild edge. Here, this guy's highly successful, polished. He knows what he's doing. And I thought it was just irritation that we were doing so well and having a good time. But that wasn't the case. He actually cared. I thought he couldn't see what we were building. And then one day he stepped back. No blow up, no campaign against me, no parting shot. He just quietly wasn't there anymore. And I told myself he couldn't keep up. What an idiot I was. Here's what I know now, and I want you to write this down. Growth hides the small measurements. When everything is going up, the small numbers look like they don't matter. They're not noise. They are the early readings of a failure that hasn't happened yet. And that elder wasn't being fussy. He was reading the instruments that I didn't believe in. If you are faithful in the little things, you're going to be faithful in the larger ones. Luke 16:10. That's not just about money. That's about everything a man is trusted with. So what happened? I'm going to be honest with you because you don't need my highlight reel. You need the truth. Devastation. I built something that grew faster than my maturity. I created a monster that I could not control. And when the storms came, the outside ones, the one nobody can prevent, they didn't cause the collapse. They exposed it. They found every gap I'd been too busy winning to notice. And this is what I need you to see. It was my second launch. I had experience. What I didn't have was maturity. And I didn't know those were two different things. You can log years on the road without covering any distance. That elder saw it coming. He told me where to look. I didn't look, and I didn't fully understand what he'd been trying to show me until recently, not years later, decades. That's how long this road is. Here's the part I never saw coming. Decades later, I found myself at a different table, watching a young leader do what young leaders do. Full of drive, sure of the direction, not interested in what the older voices in the room had to say. And I recognized him because he was me. So I did what the elder did all those years ago. I stepped back. No attack, no campaign. I can honestly tell you, I respect the work being done and the heart behind it. I'm just not going to participate in a direction I know is headed somewhere I've already been. I want to be careful here because from the outside, stepping back in clarity and walking away in resentment, they look identical. Same empty chair, but on the inside, they're opposites. Resentment leaves and keeps arguing in the parking lot. It rehearses the speech. It waits to be proven right. Clarity leaves at peace. It doesn't need the last word. And let me be honest, the way I try to be in every one of these episodes. The piece of me that wants them to know they're wrong, it isn't gone. Maturity isn't when that piece disappears. Maturity is when it doesn't drive anymore. That's what the long road buys you. Not a new heart with old wiring, a steady hand on the wheel that the old wiring doesn't control. Now, let me talk to the man this episode is really for. You're not the leader charging ahead. You're not the elder who already stepped back. You're the man in the middle. You can see the small details being missed. You know better. But you go along because you don't know how to say no, that's not right, to something that you feel obligated to support. So, brother, hear me on this. You think you have two options: fight the leader or comply with him. There's a third one, and it's the one nobody showed you. A no can be quiet, kind, and final. I'm not telling you to confront anybody. The only time you confront someone is when you can do it with Christ walking beside you, and that person is actually willing and able to listen. If that's not your situation, don't create a war for yourself. And here's what I'm telling you. Stop routing your obedience through a human voice. If someone keeps telling you what Christ's work is for you, and somewhere along the way their will started as sounding like his will, take it back to the source. Go directly. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And that's Galatians 1:10. So this week, prayer and meditation. Ask Christ what he actually wants you to do, then follow what comes back, even if it's not what you expected. That might mean stepping back from something everyone expects you to carry. It might mean going all in on a mission harder than you ever have, because discernment that only ever tells you to quit isn't discernment. That's preference wearing a robe. The test cuts both ways, but whatever comes back, make sure it's the Holy Spirit you're following, not something else, not someone else. The long road of maturity took me from the big thing to the one. I used to be all about the massive organization, the growth, the recognition, the scoreboard. These days, I'm about the one life, the one day, the small story that never gets applause and changes everything anyway. Turns out the small detail was the massive one all along. And the elder knew that. Now I do too. One life at a time, one day at a time, and one day better.